Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Look, I'm like many of you. I'm not okay with almost beating U of H. Yeah, we were close, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, just like many of you, right? I'm not okay with, ah, man, we were so close. We fought hard. I'm not okay with that. What I am okay with is looking at history and using that as my gauge for where this team is going to be come March. A&M's not going to play a better opponent than the University of Houston. This team is still dealing with some injuries and some guys out of the lineup. The team is close, and I think they are getting better. I do think they're getting better. So while I agree, I was hoping and thinking this could be an Elite 8 team, a Sweet 16 team, and it doesn't feel that way right now. But I'm going to use the last 3 years as my guide into where this team is going. So I'm concerned where this team is right now. But I think their best version starts in January and certainly hits their peak come March. And that's what I'm going to hope and expect for this A&M basketball team. So I'm not going to get all upset about it right now. They lost against one of the top teams in the country. Now they adjust, and they get ready for conference play. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Olin Buchanan, always with me here during the Go Hour. Hey, buddy.
Hey, A&M just needs to put together a complete game against a good opponent. Mm-hmm. I still give them a pass about the Virginia game just because of all the travel issues involved. The Florida Atlantic, they didn't have Boots or Coleman for most of the game.
Yep.
And then when you throw in the Marble hadn't played all year. And the problem with that game the other night against UH was that, first of all, you didn't have Boots again. But the first half was just poor. The second half, you were excellent. And it's easy to look at Wade Taylor and say, oh, what a great player, great the half he had. And that's true. And that, as crazy as it sounds, they need to get away from needing Wade to score 30 points, right? Other guys have got to start stepping up and being more consistent. But it wasn't just Wade. It was the defensive effort was night and day.
It was better.
And that's who they got to be defensively, is who they were in the second half against Houston. If they can be that team in the second half against Houston, then that can be a Final Eight type of team. And also start taking better care of the ball. They said that. They had 8 turnovers in the first half.
3 in the second half, I believe.
3 in the second.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big believer in the even in basketball, the moral victory. But that, you went away from that feeling like, dang, it could have been so much better. And but the Memphis game, see, I go back to that, and you came away from that one feeling, discouraged. I don't feel discouraged after this game. Even though it was a loss, it feels a little more encouraging.
Here's the issue, OB. This fan base needs something good.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm talking about because football went a certain way. If you're on the boards at all this weekend, you see all the negativity. We suck at NIL. No, we don't. But I understand, there's frustration because if not, when is it going to happen? For any, beyond baseball, they got really close, and some of the other sports that have done great, women's golf, men's golf, yada, yada, yada. But they need something good, and we thought this was the team that could do it this year. And by good, I don't think anybody thought they were going to win a national championship, but maybe the things play out right and get to the Final Four, or maybe they can get to the Elite Eight.
Well, I was just seeing them on the road, and make no mistake, they're going to call the neutral site. I was there. That was a road game.
Yep.
First of all, you're playing in Houston's home city. But secondly, think about the fans in there that were held over from the previous game.
Oh, yeah.
The previous game was Texas and LSU.
They both hate you.
Who do you think they're rooting for?
Right.
Right? So it was a pro UH crowd.
Well, and not only that, all U of H has is this basketball team. Like, no disrespect, but that's what they have. A&M is not a basketball school. We become a basketball school when things go good.
Right.
But we're not. Like, and they're going to go. That team wasn't, by the way, just 7-8 years ago. They've built something.
Well, they've got a heck of a coach.
They do. And I do agree with something he said post-game. Buzz did what a good coach would do, which is they threw away the game plan and Wade, go be Superman.
He did. That was a great quote. He said, hey, Buzz did what he had to do. He quit running his offense. We were shutting it down, so he just said, Wade, go be a hero, and he was. And, I mean, they were down 21 with 15 minutes to go, right? With a minute and a half, it's tied. With less than a minute to go, you're at the free throw line with a chance to tie it again, and that didn't work out. But, I mean, that's how close that game was. So if UH, I guess what we're all getting at, if UH and Florida Atlantic, you played in their home state.
Right.
Those are two teams that a lot of people would say, hey, man, these could be Final Four teams. FAU was last year. UH, we all thought would be. And you're on the road against both those guys without, I think we can all agree, your second best player.
Yep.
And you take them down to the wire. So what you got to do is just get healthy and find that complete game where you don't need Wade to go out and score in the 30s. He can score in the 20s, and Henry Coleman's coming up and scoring, in the double figures, and Boots and, somebody else. So that made me feel, maybe I'm being deceived, but that game made me feel you're not that far away.
No, you're not that far. I think we all came into the season thinking they were that team, right? But again, you can't expect to be that team when 3 parts of your team are not there.
Right, and I was feeling they were that team when they came back and beat Iowa State, which is a good basketball team. But you're right. Marble is not a star, but Marble is a good player for his role.
Integral piece of your team.
And you haven't had him. He gives you more muscle and a little bit of meanness inside that. I mean, he's a starter.
And he complements Henry Coleman so well, because there were days last year where Henry didn't have a great game, but Marble did,
right,
and vice versa.
So you're missing him, and you may not have him all year. I mean, no one's talking about what's going on with him. I don't know. I know it's a university thing. I wish the university would get to move on and decide one way or another, so you know if he's going to be around or not. But Boots' injury, I've been told that he got a really severe bruised sternum, and it makes it hard for him to breathe. To breathe. But that even could be a blessing in disguise, because the idea of a well-rested Boots going into January is not a bad thing.
Yeah, not a bad thing at all. How was your weekend?
It was pretty heinous.
I would say your Cowboys game yesterday probably put you in a bad mood.
The Aggie game, they ran the media out. We were working on our stories. I mean, I'm talking about 5, maybe 10 minutes after the end of the press conference.
They ran the media out?
They said, you got 15 minutes. I'm like, why do y'all even host an event? You would think, you understand that's part of it when you agree to host an event. So I was very frustrated with that.
Did you voice your concerns?
More so than I probably should have, but
okay.
I did.
But I'm sure you had other people who had your back.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed with me. It's like the Independence Bowl. They do stuff like that. If you're gonna, that's part of the deal. But anyway, so that was a bad situation. I'm trying to remember. Friday was fine, and then yesterday, Irma beat me in dominoes, which rarely happens. I mean, that's like a Haley's Comet type of thing. And so I just knew that it was just a lost weekend.
I get that.
So, and then after what had happened at Houston with the Aggies coming up short, and after losing in dominoes, I watched the first series of that game, and I told Irma Quinn, I said, Cowboys aren't winning this one. I've seen this team my whole life,
this
and
team,
I see a team that's sleepwalking. And, it was and then, you know what? So I decided I'm going to watch the Barry Sanders documentary.
How was that?
Fell asleep in it. So here I am. So that was my weekend. Sorry you asked, right?
Well, can I daddy brag for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead. I want you
to. So I'm still in a funk. And by the way, thanks to a bunch of the TexAgers who reached out. But I've been in a funk all weekend, so I wasn't able to really find some really good happiness. But my daughters had a tournament in Austin, this little regional all-star thing. I met a TexAger there who was super nice. We chatted for a little bit. My youngest, and I'm sorry for bragging here for a minute, but she was dominating this tournament. She was having a great tournament, right? And for some reason, I think because she was doing so well.
This is Isla,
Yep. Yeah. She was doing so well, they put her on defense for the last game against the North Texas team. And we're losing, and she's been on defense all game long. We're down 1-0. Then she doesn't start the second half, which I find weird. So they bring her in with 15 minutes left, and in those last 15 minutes, she scores 2 goals and two assists.
She won the game.
They scored 4 goals in 15 minutes the moment they put her up top. So it was like the first time that all weekend I was like I had forgotten about the tragedy from over the weekend. So
good.
So Isla.
And what grade is she in?
She's in 5th. She's little. Great. She's a little girl, but it was just fun to watch her dominate.
And G probably needs to be showing up at some of those games.
Well, she's got some time. Who knows?
Hey, the way recruiting goes now.
This is true. This is true. But yeah, I'm proud of the way she played, and it was cool. Like a lot of TexAgers reached out to me, but I met one at the game. It was great. So luckily I was able to find a little happiness there.
That should have been a lot of happiness.
Yeah,
so that's great.
Yeah,
great.
She brought the dog's collar, by the way, as good luck.
One time I was when I worked in Austin, and I was doing an article with David McWilliams, former Texas coach, and his son. He had a son, Hunter, and one day I was covering a game one time, and it was New Braunfels. Westlake was playing New Braunfels, and it was in overtime. And the game ended when Hunter intercepted the ball. Anyway, talking to David McWilliams, and I asked him his greatest moment in sports. He says, my greatest moment was when my son intercepted that pass. And I said, that is so true. Mm-hmm. For most of us, watching your child have athletic success means so much more than anything you accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, any success. We're a sports radio show, but straight A's, whatever it may be, piano recital, no doubt about it. All right, let's not make this about me. Let's talk about some Aggie sports. Let's go around the room and say hello. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up, 979-693-1150. Watch this. OB, we take calls.
Yeah, we'll take them.
We just talk a lot. So we will, if you want to chat, brag about your kid, whatever, bring it on, 979-693.
Tell us your greatest moment in sports.
And it better be about your kid. And we'll take it on the Brian Foley Law hotline, by the way. But let's go behind the glass and say hi to Nick Savage this morning. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's up?
Quickly, just want to say happy birthday to my fiance Maura.
Yeah, you better.
The big 25, so happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
My greatest moment in sports, probably when I was in Little League, I got to pitch for the first time, and I think my pitching line was like a third of an inning. I think I walked 7 batters, and in between, somewhere in there, I struck a guy out. So just 7 walks and a strikeout. Then I got pulled. So that's probably
start calling you Aroldis.
Yeah, that's the peak of my success.
I thought we were gonna bring up one of your basketball successes.
Oh, good one.
No, sorry.
I brought the ball here, by the way, as a. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Our $5 below
$5 ball.
Yeah, $5 ball. But yeah.
I bet that person holding that ball has some athletic success stories to talk about.
She's yelling. She wants us to know, yeah.
I think I could beat Kay one-on-one. Luke Evangelist thinks he could take me, which maybe. That would be a more competitive game than me and David
Okay,
Nuño.
never mind. I'm not going to go there on the show. We'll talk at the break.
Okay.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where we find Luke Evangelist. Luke, can you take Nick at basketball?
Absolutely. I was going to say the greatest moment of my athletic success ever doesn't come from a sport that I've actually ever played before. It was in a 3-on-3 basketball game for my high school senior year tournament. We had a 3-on-3 tournament, and I hit the game-winning shot in the quarterfinals. My team got blown out the next game, partly because I'm bad at basketball, but I'm not bad enough that I wouldn't be able to beat Nick. I think
How
I
do
could
you
probably
know that
take
without
Nick.
watching him play?
Because I know you smoked him, David, and I know I could probably get a couple points on you.
You can.
Yes, I can.
I don't know. I've never seen you play, but I don't think you can.
Well, we should probably have a 3-on-3 tournament.
After the show, 100%. No, one-on-one.
No, yeah, I was about to say you can't say that and not go one-on-one with the Undertaker. So you have to.
We can keep going.
You have to
and I'm not
play
good.
David now.
I'm just mean. All right, go ahead.
Okay, well, actual sports updates here since we're talking about athletic success. If you've been on the boards or on Twitter this weekend, you've seen that Texas Aggies United is ramping up their social media efforts. So if you aren't already, go follow at TexAgs United on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The Good Poster left us a note that their Twitter following increased by 113% just yesterday. So let's make sure to keep that going. And then on to the hardwood.
Wait. Can we be selfish for a moment?
Yeah.
Can we get everybody who's doing that to also help out Olin's Twitter, Nuño's Twitter, Liucci's Twitter?
Luke's Twitter, Nick's Twitter, Kay's Twitter.
Everybody's Twitter.
Just come on, just be friendly. Even if you don't like us, just be friendly.
And the TexAgs Twitter and the TexAgs
Oh, that's
YouTube,
the most important one, yeah.
And the TexAgs Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Twitter, all those social media
I must have
apps.
a lot of followers that don't like me because I get a lot of direct messages from Texas fans.
Did they send you direct messages?
Sometimes, yeah. And it might be for something.
Do you follow them? How do they?
I don't.
How do they? I thought you had to follow somebody to get a direct message,
well,
Luke. Is that right?
Maybe I do.
Yeah.
Then. It may be one of those things that a lot of times I do things that I don't even know what I'm doing right. So maybe I have. But I've got some of direct messages. Some I get, what do they call it? I'm not very Twitter skilled. So some maybe it's, what do you call it?
Bots?
Quotes.
Okay.
At me or whatever. So I get a lot of that. I'm like, man, I don't know why Texas fans are always I'm trying to think of the G-rated version.
I don't get that much.
Got an issue with me.
I don't get that much, but I don't tweet that much, so that's probably part of the reason. All right, Luke, continue on, please.
After nearly erasing a 21-point deficit to number 4 Houston, A&M is sitting at 7-4, but it's not about the record, it's about the resume. They're currently tied for third for the most Quad 1 wins in the country with 3, and despite the loss, their net ranking moved up to 16th, which is 80 spots higher than their net ranking at this time last year. So Buzz's tougher non-conference scheduling has paid off. A&M has played 6 Quad 1 games so far, which is top 5 in the country, and it's no surprise that they rank 4th in strength of schedule because of that.
They tried to play a tougher schedule last year, but the teams they scheduled who had been good
weren't good.
Yeah. And, you never, how do you know, right? But this year it's been, I think Ohio State keeps winning, I think.
Yep.
And I want to say did Memphis win a big game this week?
Yeah. They did.
So that's good. That's good for them.
By the way, Calvin on the TexAgs chat says, Olin, that's the story. No reason for the Ags to be down 21 points with 15 minutes left.
Right. That goes right back to the turnovers and that they weren't playing the same kind of defense. And that's why I'm saying the second half, the defense was so much better. And then, of course, Wade went crazy.
Yep.
And he was hitting some shots that I thought, that's an error. Oh, it's not a win. That kind of thing.
But
he was
me,
unconscious.
That, to me, though, that's a scary – I mean, it's cool every now and then,
right.
but you cannot rely on that methodology.
To make the point, he's done that twice.
Yep.
And both times they've lost.
Yeah, there you go. Luke, anything else?
Yeah, Aggie women's basketball and our good friend Joni Taylor has a chance to extend their winning streak to 8 games tonight at 7 o'clock at Reed Arena against Mississippi Valley State. I'm sure we've all heard of them.
The Delta Devils.
Yep, they are outscoring their opponents by an average of 29.8 points.
Best football player to ever come out of Mississippi Valley State is?
Maybe you?
No. Think about the greatest wide receiver in the history of the sport.
Randy Moss.
Even better.
We're going to play this game until you get it right.
What's your favorite side dish? With Chinese food?
Honestly, when most people talk about the greatest...
Oh, Jerry Rice.
Okay.
Okay.
The guy who was doing... Didn't he do it at 40? Or like 38 or something.
Yeah.
Like for the Raiders, he was great.
From Mississippi Valley State.
I did not know that. Well, anyways, Joni Taylor's squad has won 9 games this year, and they won 9 games all of last year. So they're on the cusp of being ranked. They've received 10 votes in the last AP poll, and they're looking to eclipse their win total from all of last season right before Christmas. So what a turnaround for Joni Taylor and her team. And if you're in town, come to Reed Arena and watch some holiday hoops.
There you go. That was a good pitch right there. Good
I
advertising.
would like to go, except I think we've got an event tonight, so
We do got an event tonight. Yeah. Let's
we'll be there in spirit, Joni.
Well, they're not open today, but today could be a twofer. You can have the event tonight, where we're gonna have good food wherever that is, and then for lunch you can have even better food.
Well, I've been kind of in a funk lately, for various reasons, and you know what can get you out of that? When you need to feel good, when you need to feel happy again.
The 2 F's, Fargos, Funk and Fargos,
funky Fargos, man, with the rib tips on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Man, a rib tip Tuesday could get you out of a funk, man. I might need to go over there tomorrow and get some.
And on Wednesday, I think they have food too, right?
Well, it's on Wednesday, if you like that, if you like a baked potato, and who doesn't, you can get one, but you can also get it stuffed with their really good chopped beef, which I'm a proponent of their chopped beef.
Thursday, pork chops.
Thursday, if you like a big old pork chop, you can get 2 of them.
And then Friday.
Oh, Friday's the 4 C's. You got your catfish, your coleslaw, your corn, your crunchy hush puppies. Can't go wrong with that.
And
CC, senor.
CC, senor. And then on Saturday, you get to do it all over again.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's why on Sunday, Monday, you need a break.
1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in the mind of God.
In the mind of God. That's a different one.
The world, the universe, the mind of God.
By the way, that's their new trademark.
Because it's true.
It's Fargos.
Dun, 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 dun.
I don't want this to be a topic on the show for too long, but we're going to spend 2 or 3 minutes on this. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. You asked young Luke Evangelist who the best wide receiver of all time was, right? He answered Randy Moss. Okay? He was wrong.
He's probably in the top 2.
Yeah. I mean, and Matt Tackle, who's not older by any stretch, he's like my age. He agrees with Luke, which is interesting to me. How many?
It's like people that think LeBron James is better than Jordan. It means
it's just dumb. It's just not even educated.
Here's the question, though. If you had to say that Rice is 1 and Moss is 2, who's 3?
Andre Johnson? I'm kidding.
Megatron.
A lot of people say
I kind
Megatron.
of agree with that.
Yeah.
Or, Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald's up there.
Yeah, so Michael Irvin.
Is Chris Carter on there?
Chris Carter only catches touchdown passes. I think Chris Carter's top 10.
But how many Super Bowls does Randy Moss have?
Are we about to go
or even played in
resume goat for goat?
He's played in 1.
Jerry Rice wins that. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, in a different era of football, sure, if you want to just go by yards. But Randy Moss did win 3 Super Bowls.
Did he?
Jerry Rice won 3 Super Bowls. Randy Moss won 0. And he went to 1.
I will say this, to be fair.
And I love Randy Moss, by the way.
I do too. To be fair, Jerry Rice played with better quarterbacks than for most of his career than Moss did.
But he did play with the greatest ever.
Yeah, for a season.
Yeah. Was it 1 or 2 seasons?
I think it was 1.
Just 1?
But anyway, Rice is the best. He's the best.
You have, Super Bowls have to mean something, right, Luke?
Yeah, no, I agree. And as you were saying, he did play with the GOAT for 1 year. And I do forget, that team seemed to be really good. And who did they lose to in the Super Bowl?
They lost to the Giants.
Yeah, they did lose to New York Giants.
Yeah, to one of the worst receivers ever, Plaxico Burress.
He didn't shoot himself that year. Was it that year?
I think it was in the offseason.
It was later.
Yeah, who does that? Shoots himself.
Let me just ask, who do you think is the greatest quarterback of all time?
Well, as a Michigan fan, I would have to go Tom Brady.
Okay. I'm all right with that.
But my mom, who is probably a 49ers fan more than Michigan, she would probably say Joe Montana.
I never saw it, but I was told back in the 80s, Joe Montana could do a 360 dunk.
Joe Montana was he was the bane of my existence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm talking about when I was a Texas fan, I went to the Cotton Bowl in '77, and Joe Montana led Notre Dame over the number 1 Texas Longhorns.
That's right.
And then the next year, they was in the Cotton Bowl against Houston.
That's right.
And he led an improbable comeback on a day he almost died.
So Randy Moss played with who? Did he ever play with Brett Favre?
I think he
played with Randall Cunningham at the top of his game.
Culpepper.
Dante Culpepper. That hurt. But he had a couple really good years with each other.
You throw good years. Here's the deal: throw it as far as you can and let Randy Moss go get it.
And I believe he had Chris Carter on that team too, right?
Yeah, and Hunter Goodwin.
Was Hunter? That's right. Hunter was there.
I think so. I think he was. I could be wrong on that.
Rod McWilliams thinks that Luke would beat me in basketball.
And he's right. Hey, Brad Johnson was Randy Moss's quarterback for 2 games.
There you go. There you go. So Randy was at a little bit of a disadvantage, but I'm still going with Jerry Rice.
Yeah. David Williams brings on that people forget about Steve Young. Steve Young won that 95 Super Bowl.
Yeah, I said through his career, he played with better quarterbacks.
He did, yeah. But Jerry did it for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Did it at multiple teams, by the way. He was still fantastic when he left the 49ers.
No, there's no doubt.
Yeah, and I think Michael Irvin does deserve more props than he gets.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's got 3 Super Bowls. Yeah, and it was great. So it'd be interesting to me. It's really interesting who's the number 3 guy on the list, because if you are going to talk about Super Bowls meaning something, you can make a strong case for Michael Irvin as 3 on the list.
Absolutely. I think what happens too with these opinions is that all of us
have one.
Yeah, but we decide it, and then we're not really open to change. For instance, you probably watched Randy Moss play. Am I right about that? Were you old enough? Okay.
Yep.
But you didn't watch Jerry Rice play unless you watched on YouTube, and that doesn't give you the same kind of thing. I decided that Michael was the GOAT in 1988, and I continued it through his career and afterwards. And even though I look at the numbers of LeBron and I can understand why some people think that they didn't live, I lived through the MJ era. I lived through the Jerry Rice era. I lived through both Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. So I lived through these eras.
Well, one of the reasons, I'm going to take it back to basketball now, one of the reasons that I think it's Jordan is when Kobe Bryant was at his best, people were saying, well, who was better, Bryant or Jordan? And then it's changed, who's better? When you're the guy everybody's always being compared to, then you're the guy.
Yep. My thing about it is, who would you rather have on your team?
That's true, too.
And, by the way, I think LeBron is probably number 2, probably, based on stats and longevity and staying healthy for most of his career, and wherever he goes, they win.
Yeah, and you know what?
But I would rather have Kobe over
I'm going to tell
LeBron.
you, I'm going to give you the old man answer that people are going to laugh. And I hated him. I'm not sure it's not Bird.
Oh, Bird was so
I
good.
hated him. Luke is over there smirking. Luke has no idea. Because the idea, it's not supposed to. It's not a bodybuilding contest. It's who goes out there and plays and lifts your team and plays at a high level and makes everybody around you better.
Yep. What is your anti-Bird?
No, I'm not anti-Bird. My thing is I see about him on like TikTok and YouTube, his infamous comments about like, all right, who's coming in second, or he's going to play with his left hand because he doesn't want to tire himself out. He's like a legend for sure, but then again, like I haven't seen it. So I see about him from YouTube and
back in the 80s, and everybody my age is going to know this. You chose, even if your team was the Mavericks, but you knew at the end of the year it was going to be Lakers and Celtics, and you chose one of those teams.
Yep.
And I chose Lakers, and one of my best friends, bless him, the guy who passed away a couple of weeks ago, was Celtics. And we used to have these intense fan-type arguments. And I can remember when when Magic Johnson hit a shot, he turned around and he swore at me and then felt bad about it later. But it was – and I hated Bird.
Yeah.
But, man, you talk about the guy that performs at an incredible level and at the same time makes everybody around him better.
Well, again, we got to hit a break here. But you go back to when you watched it, and it's very hard to change your opinion. Like, who's the greatest strikeout artist of all time?
Well,
the stats and your eyeballs tell you
Nolan
Nolan Ryan, right? And I don't think there's anything that anybody can do today that'll change my mind. Which is
where's Mike Evans where's he gonna show up on the list of receivers? Let's localize it a little bit.
When he wins the Super Bowl with the Houston Texans next year, probably top 5.
Is he gonna top 5?
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that.
Come on, C.J. Stroud and Mike Evans.
Yeah, there's a guy that's never really got, except for 1 or 2 years, gotten to play with good quarterbacks. Yeah. And the numbers that he keeps putting up is crazy.
That is true.
I don't know if he'll ever be top 5, but he's definitely going to be top, say, 20 and maybe even top 10 by the time it's over.
Let's hit a break here. We'll come back here in a bit. Don't replace it. Lift it, guys. Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support. You can call them up at 979-933-8527. Ascend is locally an Aggie-owned and operated concrete lifting and support company providing easy, clean service at half the price of replacement. They are problem solvers when it comes to concrete issues. So let's take a look at your driveway. If you got some cracks out there, it's lifted, and people are tripping on it. You have some old folks that come over, and you're very worried about it. Let them lift it at a fraction of the cost, and it'll look almost brand new. That's the beauty of having Ascend Lift come by. 60 years of professional construction and concrete expertise. You got Brian Dickerson there and Aggie, and he just does a wonderful job educating you on the lifting process, the materials that they're going to use, tell you why concrete tends to settle and why there's so many issues out there. They're going to take care of you all around the great state of Texas, locally, statewide, and nationwide. 979-933-8527. They can raise and stabilize any form of concrete slab once the project is finished. The appearance is close to seamless to the eyes. Residential service, they do it there. They do it commercial. They do industrial and municipal, roads, highways, streets, highways. You name it. Fraction of the cost, free estimates. Follow them on social media. Ascend Lift on Facebook and on Instagram. Call them up at 979-933-8527 for an appointment. Don't replace it. Lift it with Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support. And we are back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I want to go back to the three things we wanted to see on Friday in a moment. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I'm listening.
But I want to give props for a moment to Bronny and Jason Howell.
Well, they're doing great work.
They always do great work.
Yes.
But, like, I am captivated by the recruiting thread. If you're not a premium subscriber, you need to, like, it is fantastic. There are some people that, want more information than they're like. They are updating you guys with every bit of information before it, and it's interesting once they report it. Sometimes a few minutes later, other places pick it up.
Amazing how that works.
Huh.
I wonder why that's the case.
But they are fantastic at what they do. State championship coverage was great. Transfer portal information has been fantastic. Everything.
Bronny's getting ready to get married next month, and yet here he is. I've come to work sometimes. He's already here working and on the phones and things like that. I mean, I don't ever want to praise Bronninger, but here he is.
Bronny's great.
Getting ready to get married and spending all his time working, which is probably the thing to do.
Yeah.
Because that keeps me out. Gives me a great excuse from having to deal with all the wedding garbage.
Hey, let's go through three things that we wanted to see over the weekend. Do you remember your three?
Well, I think I wanted to see Wade Taylor.
You got Wade.
Yeah, I got Wade.
You got Wade.
I think I wanted to see him play better defense, especially at the 3-point line. I think
the second half of that.
Yeah, I got the second half. Again, if they could play, if that could be that second half, if that could be the consistent defensive effort, then look out where this team's going.
Yep.
I can't remember what my third one was.
Well, here are my three. Smarter threes. Think we got smarter threes this weekend?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That one's they made
but
more.
They made them.
They made them.
So that if they make them, they're smart. So yes.
But sometimes there's those are threes that I'm like, no.
Oh, smart call, smart shot.
I would have done that too. Match Houston's physicality, energy. Punch him in the face first. They punched him in the face first. It didn't last very long.
No, they got up 7-0. Houston couldn't shoot early.
Uh-huh.
Look, all that happened in the second half.
Absolutely. And then another transfer of substance for A&M. Do you consider, there was a couple, but Cyrus Allen from Louisiana Tech?
It looks good.
Looks good.
Wasn't he their leading receiver?
Yeah.
Last year had about 48 catches, 50 catches, 750 yards. Well, there it is.
That's for 2 seasons right there.
2 seasons.
Yeah.
Well, last year I think he had 20 of them, and he had about 750 yards. So he had about 50% increase last year. Look at his stats and think about 75% of those stats occurred last year. Why don't I just look it up? Here we go. I'm going to look it up.
Please look it up.
I'm going to look it up. Receiving 2003 Louisiana Tech. Cyrus Allen, 46 catches, 778 yards, 4 touchdowns last year. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
And I don't know what their quarterback situation was last year or anything. And I'm not, got to admit, I'm not very schooled on the Bulldogs from Ruston, Louisiana.
All I know is that a lot of these folks last year that we didn't know much about that came from some smaller schools ended up being, and I'm not even just saying A&M, around the country, ended up being some ballers.
I hope he's as good as the Louisiana Tech guy that went to Ole Miss. Trey Harris.
Trey Harris is pretty legit, right?
That would be great.
Man, if he is that good, why didn't they win more there,
That's
right? Like, they had both of those dudes. So, and again, like Ja'Day Walker, we didn't know much about that dude a year ago. We didn't. You're like, okay, cool, got another guy.
And he got better as the year went on.
He started off really good. Then he had a couple of drops.
Big deal.
Right, but he had a couple of drops, and he was out of the lineup for a little bit. Then he came back, and
he played well.
He played very, very well out there. You made a comment during the break that I think was you are more concerned with, or to you, what makes a better NIL school is the retention as opposed to necessarily the recruiting of the new players.
Well, I think that's the case for Texas A&M.
Yep.
I still believe that Texas A&M has a championship caliber roster at this time. To me, a successful NIL year would be being able to keep the lion's share, the nucleus of that roster intact.
Sure.
That would be, to me, more impressive. Now, are there guys out there that, I hope you can land this guy to need a tackle, need this, but what if you, because they're not gone yet, but what if you came up with NIL to retain Walter Nolan, to retain Chase Basantes, throw out another name, like we knew Jake Johnson was gone as soon as his brother was gone. So that was a lost cause. God bless him. We all understand that. We all understand family. Best of luck to you. But what if you retain Fidel Diggs? If you retain these guys that I think are really good players that were held back by all the issues we've talked about for the last month, I think that would mean more. That would be more successful, mean more for NIL, and be more conducive to having a successful football team in 2024 than the guys you're going to bring in.
Surprisingly, the offense has done a pretty good job so far. You always got to throw in so far because the portal's still open for a little bit longer, of keeping guys. So far, for the most part, the offense has done pretty well.
Seems that way.
You know, you were going to lose Max. You were going to lose Jake, right?
Right.
And then you got some guys going to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, that's that you knew that was going to happen, right?
So the interesting part for me is like,
what if you keep Evan Stewart, and what if you keep Chase Basantes, and what if you're able to keep Walter Nolan, and if you put that on a board of NIL guys or transfer guys.
Had they gone elsewhere, how would that team feel about what they were? And A&M has a chance to keep them.
Would you feel like if they're saying if somebody's ranking the top quote free agents?
I think Walter's number one on that list,
and you keep him, right? So that's why I think I'm still waiting to see what happens in NIL, to see how successful this NIL is.
This is not I'm not talking about Walter or Evan or Chase when I say this, but there is a part of me that is okay with people leaving. If you didn't win here and you want to go elsewhere, like I'm okay with a balance of new players, an influx of players, and that maybe you can spread out. So I want to keep Walter Nolan. I'm not saying I don't. But I'm okay, like if Walter decides to go to Ole Miss, like some people are reporting, that it looks like he's trending. All right, well, with that money, can you go get 2 quality players, and help change the culture along with your new coaching change? And then there's the other part of my brain that's like, but I'd love to see what Walter could be with Mike Elko. I'd love to see what he can become.
Right, and we were talking about Broniger, and I don't know if he'd want me to say this or not, but I'm going to say it anyway. At the beginning of the year, he might have said it to you too. When we're talking about, hey, what could be the Aggies' year? And I'm saying, I still say they should say 10-2, but I'm going to say 9-3. So that was what I picked. I said they're going to lose a game that you don't think they should lose. Broniger, and he said 7-5, and he said, and I remember he said, it's not the talent, it's the coaches. I just have no faith in that coaching staff. I remember Broniger, and if gosh, I hope I'm not getting him in trouble by saying that. But I remember him saying that. I'm like, well, we'll see. Well, if he didn't hit that one. So I'm just saying, what if you had the nucleus of that team with a different coaching staff that's more open-minded and is not going to put up with certain things?
But I thought that coaching staff was going to be good enough. Like, to me, they should have been that good. They should have been good enough. They should have not been so stubborn.
Yeah, we all say that. I mean, it's just, you saw the Bobby Petrino comments, right? And you saw what other people have said about A&M and their offensive scheme. And then, then you never know what's embellished after a coach leaves, because then everybody has something to say that they didn't say before. And now we're hearing stories about, just some undisciplined issues here and there and why it was different. And who knows what's true, false, embellished. But with a new start, I just feel like if you had the nucleus of this team, that you still have the chance to have a big-time success.
Am I wrong here? If Jimbo would have fired Steve Adazio a year ago, he probably still has his job this year.
Maybe, or if Jimbo would have changed some things in his, quote, scheme, even though scheme doesn't matter, maybe that offensive line would have looked a lot better.
Yeah.
I do think I remember a story about Jimbo having some disagreement with some former offensive line coaches about blocking scheme, and his idea was, this is proven that this is the way it works. And well, maybe it used to.
Proven in the 1800s.
Well, when you're in that previous league, you have the better talent every single week except maybe one against Clemson.
Yeah.
is that scheme or that, even though it doesn't matter, is that always going to be the case when you're in the SEC and you don't have superior talent? And even if you do, the margin of superiority is a lot thinner than it is when you lined up against teams. When you're lining up for Florida State against Wake Forest, every one of your players is probably
better,
significantly better than the guys blocking, as opposed to when you're lining up at Alabama against LSU. You might be better, but you're not head and shoulders better.
Set a break here. A moment now for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. About a year and a half ago, I bought a vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. We bought a Tahoe. It was great. The entire experience was awesome. Awful, I was about to say, but no, awesome. Incredible experience out there. When I went there, by the way, the phone call started early. Like, I called them up and said, this is what I'm looking for. I saw a couple online. Can I go test drive it? I test drove the car. I loved it. We went out of town. We came back. It was still there. I was like, yeah, I think we want to pull the trigger on it. And we did. It was a great decision. And then the customer service, not only during the process, but after the process, was incredible. They were so good. And I needed some help. They came and picked it up. They brought it back. It was easy, complimentary pickup there that they do at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Great trade-in values, great vehicles out there on the website. The whole thing, you're going to be thinking it is top-notch. Check out the website again, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. 15-minute drive. Edge of Bryant, edge of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. John on the YouTube page thought we got rid of Jimbo a little too soon.
Okay.
Give him another year with the way the schedule sets up.
I can see that argument.
This is where I can't. You can't be average to bad for 3 straight years in SEC football and keep your job.
Yeah. You know, and I see that point too. I was at a point where if you kept him a year, I understood why. If it meant you're probably going to keep the again, the nucleus of the roster intact.
Yep.
Because you're thinking eventually you're going to have all that talent's going to prevail. And with Notre Dame, LSU, and Texas all coming to Kyle Field next year, do you want to face them with a roster that's inferior, right?
Right.
But that said, what was the Ross Bjork analogy? Hey, you just can't stay in the fast lane going 55.
Right.
I can't drive 55, Sammy Hagar.
And let's not forget, there was lots of whispers that were loud that people were going to leave.
That's true, too.
So there was no guarantee. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke, any text messages that you want to share with us?
Not a text message, but I do have like a little bit of a funny thing. If Nick could put up this picture that I sent him. This is a picture from the 6A Division II State Championship that has been going viral. That is Byron Washington, who is 6'8", 380, and get this, he is 16 years old. So I just need to know, what are they feeding these kids over in DeSoto that this kid is 16 years old?
He looks like a DeSoto. You know, that's an old car, a DeSoto. And I want to know who the other kid is. It looks like that scene from The Blind Side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Did I hear
Well, it looks like Godzilla.
Did DeSoto get in trouble, or the people were mad at them because they were wearing white gloves and the team that they were playing was in a white uniform or something? And it was they had only pulled it out for this game.
I don't know.
Smart.
I mean, all I can tell you is that is definitely holding. But if that was an A&M defensive player, no way that gets called.
Let's talk about uniforms in high school. To me, one of the worst things ever done. I can't believe they got away with it. And I'm going to have some people hear me that's not going to like it. Temple used to play with blue jerseys on the front, and the back of their jerseys were white. How could you get away with that?
They got away with it. We got to hit a break. OB, thank you so much, buddy. When we come back, Tom Hart next on TexAgs Radio. Welcome back in. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Got some college hoops to talk about, some college football to talk about with our buddy Tom Hart from ESPN joining us on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Tom, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. What an intro. What a song. It really got me on my feet, got my hands above my head, started making letters with my arms, did the whole thing.
How about
I wish I could be on Zoom for this one.
How about the transition from Christmas music to that? Like, to me, I felt like I was at a party or a wedding.
I know. Yeah. My wife said the same thing. I had it on speakerphone, and she's like, "Oh, we're going Village People here." Yeah.
Well, big fan of the music back in 1981. Hey, what's the holiday plans for you? You working bunch? I know you got, the Alamo Bowl?
Yeah, we've got the Alamo Bowl on the 28th, which is going to be a blast. Prior to that, got the Birmingham Bowl on this coming Saturday. I didn't even know there's a bowl this afternoon at 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central. So Birmingham Bowl is Duke and Troy, which obviously know Mike Elko at Duke. What's really interesting, though, David, I don't know if you've come across this, and I don't know what A&M's plans are, or Oklahoma State's for that matter, because I know they have some premier pieces that are considering the portal. But Duke is doing something that I think maybe James Madison is doing with their quarterback, but I haven't seen a lot of it. They've got two main players in the portal that have already committed Notre Dame. So those guys are out the door. But they've got 6 other guys that have said that they're in the portal, yet they're going to play. And I'm curious how other coaching staffs and what fan bases think of that. If a player is in the portal, do you think he should still play for the team? Or if you've decided you're going to leave, just go ahead and pack your bags and leave. I think it's a really interesting side story to the current phenomenon of what we're dealing with now in college football with basically wide open free agency.
Tom, I think depending on the reason for the portal, right? I think there are a lot of people who just want to see what they're worth. There's a couple guys that A&M would love to have back there in the portal right now that they're not out of, right? So if those guys decided to play, if maybe being with their boys could kind of keep them around, right? And like, man, I got some history with these guys. I don't want to leave them. I think in that case, but if they're for sure gone, like, no, get out the door.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting. You nailed it. Like the portal's being used for a variety of reasons. If players are out there saying, I want to improve my playing situation, and that is the number one reason for me to leave, let's say, Duke to go to Notre Dame, I don't think there's a whole lot of people, even within that fan base, they're going to roll their eyes or talk ill about that player. We all understand that. Everybody leaves, even adults, we leave jobs for better jobs. When we have the right to make that decision. But if it's just a negotiating tactic, that actually fits differently with me. I don't know how I feel about that. But it's the calendar. We're kind of stuck with this. Calendar is what it is. It's unfortunate, especially like you look at the Texas situation. You have a backup quarterback that would love to play in the playoff, but school's starting. Like he can't stick around for another 3 or 4 weeks into the next semester. What's the latest, by the way, speaking of portal, is Evan Stewart going to play?
We don't know if he's going to play, but he's not in the portal. And I think Billy was pretty optimistic where things are. So we'll see how things play out here. There's still time, right? So things can change. But I think they've done a really good job on the offensive side of the ball, keeping players around, at least as of right now. Again, this is such a weird – Tom, it brings up the point that you said a moment ago. Like, a lot of this stuff – it doesn't take a brainiac to figure out. Like, we could have figured out the timing of the portal a year ago, right? Like, this is not hard. Like, okay, let's do it now instead of during the bowl season and right when coaches are being let go and they're transit. Like, it doesn't – you don't have to have that much foresight to figure out this is a bad time to put the portal.
No, but I don't think there's a perfect time in the sense that if you wait until the end of the season, right, which seems like the smart way to do it, right? Like think about college baseball. Okay, season's over. I got to decide if I'm going to the draft or I'm going to find another place to play or whatever that might be. Semester's not starting again. The fall semester doesn't start some places, for months after the baseball season ends. you have another semester starting, obviously depending on your academic calendar, but maybe even before you play in that playoff game. Certainly if you win on the first before you play in the national championship, and then with the 12-team playoff coming, I don't know. I don't have that calendar memorized, but obviously it's going to put more teams in the mix later. I think the answer to all of it is going to be getting whatever definition you put on the student athlete now, whether that be employee or partner or independent contractor or revenue sharer, whatever that is, once that is figured out, and I know that is a major hurdle to climb, then what you have to do is take away some of the free agency, like collectively bargain. Okay, if you're going to sign a letter of intent or whatever it's going to be called in the future to play football at Texas A&M, you are either bound for X number of years or you owe something on your way out, whatever that might be, whatever you have to give up to leave, but it has to be some sort of transaction. Maybe it's, hey, if you're going to leave after 1 year, you have to give up a quarter of your next season and sit. Just something to discourage. Not that players shouldn't have the right to move, just like coaches do. But you have to find some stability. And coaches' contracts, at least used to be, written in a way where that coach would pay a penalty if he left early or got fired with cause. Obviously, that still stands. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think the football straddling multiple semesters, at the end of the season straddling a second semester, is really what makes the calendar so difficult.
Tom, let's go basketball for a minute before we return to football. Your thoughts on A&M hoops this year, the ups and downs, taking on some elite teams, no doubt about it, can't get it done, missing parts of their team. No boots this past weekend. That hurts against Houston, obviously. They fought to the finish. A lot of ups and downs. I think people had predicted this team to be such an elite team that now that they're not reaching that elite level yet, they're discouraged. But I feel like, and I'm answering the question for you, I apologize, but I feel like with Buzz, like they'll get better when it matters here when SEC play starts.
I agree with both things that you said, both the answer and to the question, which is essentially what you're asking is, should more have been expected? And I think it's fair for fans of the team to be upset with some of the losses, given that the biggest strength for Texas A&M coming back, in addition to, Wade Taylor being preseason player of the year, and he certainly looked like it against Houston. But the expectation was all of this returning is what's going to give you an advantage, especially when you have a chance to build a resume in November and December before conference play starts. There's no shame in losing to Houston or even Memphis. Memphis has had a remarkable start, and they just had another big win this weekend. And, in reality, there's no shame in losing to Florida Atlantic or Virginia either. It's just that those are the top 4 teams outside of Ohio State, which still has a near top 25 computer ranking. Those are the top 4 teams on your schedule, and you miss opportunities. And it really, honestly, David, like looking at 30,000-foot view, it speaks to the league as a whole has missed a lot of opportunities in the non-conference. You hope that doesn't come back to bite them come Selection Sunday, but it's going to make for what I think is going to be a wide open SEC race. I mean, it is going to. There are a lot of teams that you could look at the top 9 teams in this league. I think anybody could beat anybody. There's a few teams at the bottom that are going to be cellar dwellers, I think, all season. But it's going to be tough to win road games in this league. Just look at Ole Miss. Ole Miss still hasn't lost, but finally have a great home court advantage. Beard, as everybody knows, especially in Texas, is a hell of a coach. And they now have players eligible that they weren't quite sure they're going to get, and that gives them more size and ability on the interior. So overall, this A&M team, they still play the same style we expected. The offensive efficiency is great. It's through the roof. Nobody goes harder on the offensive glass than A&M. There's a lot to be happy about and proud of. To your point, I think there's a lot of wins in their future, even in what will be a highly competitive league.
This sounds like justification. It's not, but it's the reality of the situation. You can't expect to win a lot of games against elite teams when 2/5 of your starting lineup are missing, right? Like there's been no Julius Marble this year. Boots Radford's missed a significant chunk of time. That hurts. Though when a team is as veteran as A&M and you're missing those veteran pieces, it'll hurt.
Yeah, what's the timeline on Boots? What's the latest?
So he played, not against Houston, obviously, and then Buzz is very tight to the vest when it comes to injury situations, as most coaches are. So we don't know with Boots. OB talked a little bit earlier about just he had a very deep chest contusion and it's hard to breathe. So if that's the case, when he starts breathing normal and he gets a little bit more rest, hopefully when SEC play starts.
Yeah, missing 2/5 of your starters is that's an issue, because what it does, and having seen A&M at times this year, but I haven't watched every minute, is it puts players who should be in a support role into a prime position and into a premier role. And that puts a lot more pressure on a guy like Wade Taylor, for example, to turn in a 34-point game like he did against Houston. You can't do that game in and game out. Now, what are the benefits of it? Well, if bigger picture, if you get those injured pieces back, then those supplemental pieces now have the confidence that, if someone gets into foul trouble or turns an ankle, whatever, I can go into a big game. I can go into a big game and perform because I've done it already. We get Kentucky at home in the middle of January. Sure, I'm comfortable playing in that game against what probably the best team in the league. Or on the road at Auburn, first week of the conference season, that's fine. I can go in there and battle because I played against Houston, I played against Memphis, I played in big games already. I just think that I'm really anxious to see, how quickly Boots can get back. I think about that kid and his background, what he's done to get on the court, even make it to college basketball, and he is, he's a thumbnail that you would click on and say, what is Buzz Williams all about? What is his program all about? What is his coaching style all about? And it's Boots Radford. So I think he's really important to the personality of the team that is going to need to be, while it can be prolific offensively, and it has been, it's going to still need to be a hard-nosed team to win games.
Tom, how is Ole Miss doing it, the Portal King this year again? This is like Lane's got some issues. There's no doubt about it. But that guy's winning. He's won 10. He's also winning with transfers. He might be getting Walter Nolan. At least that's what the reports out on social media, that he's leaning that way. Like, this guy is getting dudes to go play there. How's he doing it?
Yeah, you got Juice Wells from South Carolina. I'm not sure, by the way, not to go in on one kid, but like using that as an example, he didn't really play for the Gamecocks this year, had a foot injury. I don't know if Shane Beamer was counting on getting Juice Wells back or minds seeing him leave because of the inconsistency that he had with that playing time, and probably could have played but didn't see the field. Lane pulls no punches. Like he is an open book. He is as transparent as you'll ever see with any coach. He has owned some of his mistakes in the past, and he owns his personality, and I find it to be quite refreshing. But as that relates to the portal, compare him to Dabo, right? You could not have two guys on opposite ends of the spectrum that have the same job. Dabo has said, well, we don't want to go deep in the portal because I find it disrespectful to the players and the families who I brought in and said, we're going to develop you as a man and a great football player. And so I feel that's unfair. Lane's gone the other end of the spectrum. He just said, we're going to have an open competition. If you're good enough to compete, it shouldn't matter who I bring. I mean, he over-recruited. He brought in Spencer Sanders at quarterback over Jackson Dart in the offseason. And Dart told me, he said, man, I was really ticked off when I first heard the rumors. And then Lane called me in, and we talked about it, and he told me what he was thinking, and I know where he stands. His cards are on the table. So that open competition that he produces every spring, and by the way, he'll go get more after the spring if guys don't work out, seems to work for him. That doesn't work for everybody. And he's perfectly comfortable putting together an all-star squad each and every year. What I'm curious about, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds here, but the financial support is different throughout the entire league, right? Does Ole Miss still have, and to this point they have, do they still have the salary cap to keep writing those checks? And how many? What is that next step for them? Are they going to bump into a ceiling eventually? Because that's a lot of. They're acting like they're the Yankees, right? I mean, there's a lot of high dollar free agents that they bring in, and they keep bringing in, and they're going to go find more. And somehow he's made it work, but he hasn't been able to make it work against the elite competition like Alabama and Georgia.
Tom, Kyle McCord to Syracuse. That's one that, I don't know, Syracuse, they seem to be doing some things right recently, but that surprised me. Did that surprise you?
Yes, big time. I mean, from a college football focus, you could not find two opposites, I don't think. I mean, I don't want to say they don't care about football at Syracuse, but it is almost an afterthought to a lot of the stuff that they do on that campus. Donovan McNabb was there. They're playing in the Big East. They had big crowds. They were fantastic. But it's just kind of a sport right now. In fact, Syracuse, if we get to a point in the next decade, which I don't think is too aggressive a timeline, where college football just ends up being the top 60 programs in the country, where we slice off the haves and the wannabes, Syracuse would be on the outside looking in. They're not even close. And so, coming from Ohio State, that's a huge drop for Kyle McCord. I don't know the whole story. I was reading this morning about, he was still upset that they burned his red shirt a couple of years ago for a meaningless blowout game against Michigan State with 2 games to go in the regular season. Obviously, they weren't fully committed to him, and I think that when we think about players in the transfer portal, we also have to consider what message, either direct or indirectly, they're getting from their current coaching staff. And it seemed that Ryan Day was perfectly comfortable with him walking out the door, that they had something better behind him. I just would have thought that he would have found a play. And listen, just throwing stuff against the wall here. Maybe he's had enough of the absolute major college football competition and grind, and he's like, I just want to play ball and have fun and try to win some games and enjoy my life. And Syracuse is a better fit for me. And if that's the case, then I'm not going to criticize that part of it.
100% in agreement there, Tom, but it's just weird. You go from Ohio State, you go to Oregon, you go to, you know what I'm saying? There's a level of program that you go to that they were a play away from going to the playoffs. They could have been, right? They're not that far off.
And he put up monster numbers. Yeah. Once again, without knowing the details of it, the way this thing is spinning, though, and quarterbacks having an opportunity to move up and to, play based on potential or what I did in the Sun Belt might give me a chance in the ACC. What I did at Duke gives me a chance at Notre Dame. What I did at NC State gets me the job at Kentucky. All of this movement is kind of hard to make sense of. And I think once that carousel starts spinning, jobs get filled pretty quickly. I don't know. It's odd, but it won't be. Listen, it's just the beginning in terms of the odd marriages we're going to see to come out of the transfer portal.
All right, Tom, last thing for you. How about this? And this is a question that you probably have thought about but aren't expecting today. So what are bowl games going to look like in 5 years? Are we going to keep this little pony show that we get right now, or do you think they're going to move them? They're going to put more value? What is it going to look like? Are they going to continue being just the way they are right now?
I don't think they're going to change. I'm trying to Google something as we talk here, so before I can pull it up, I'll just speak on memory, which may not be entirely accurate. I remember a couple of years ago, the Independence Bowl, which it is what it is. It's a lower tier bowl, had something like 4 million viewers. 4 million viewers on a regular college football Saturday is a great number. It's not the biggest number of the weekend, but some weekends it is. I mean, it's not Ohio State, Michigan, it's not Alabama, LSU, but you get 4 million people to watch a college football game on a Saturday. Man, that's impressive. And they're tuning in to watch the Independence Bowl or the Liberty Bowl or whatever that might be. Birmingham Bowl next week on ABC. It's going to put up monster numbers. So we have to remember what bowl season is. It is number one in this day and age television programming. It started out as a reward. It started out as Chamber of Commerce events. It started out as, let's get the Snowbirds to leave Wisconsin and come down to Jacksonville, or let's get, somebody from Iowa to come out for the Rose Bowl to Pasadena, and let's sell Southern California. There's an element to that still, but mostly it's about putting television programming on and people will watch. So in that regard, I don't see it changing. The biggest challenge will be, what does it look like from a roster standpoint, and what we talked about earlier in terms of guys who are leaving still suiting up for that team. By the way, does that make sense from an injury risk standpoint? What happens if you're suiting up for Georgia Tech and you've already decided that you're going to transfer to Oregon and you get hurt in the bowl game? Then what happens? Who's paying for your rehab? What do you do then? Do you still show up at Oregon? Is that agreement still good? I don't know, but I don't think anything's going to change. I think the biggest change that we have to see going forward with the 12-team playoff will be eventually getting all of the games except for the semis and the championship on campus, if it makes sense from a financial standpoint, because the atmosphere is so good. And then after that, finding the slots from a viewership standpoint to make sure that it makes sense to continue playing these games. And I think it will. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think maybe the coaching carousel slows down a little bit. It seems like it's been spinning super fast the last few years. I don't know why I would expect that to change, but I think if that even slowed down by 10%, we'd see a lot more consistency when it comes to the postseason.
Tom, I appreciate you, brother. Merry Christmas. We'll talk soon.
Happy holidays, everybody. David, thanks for having me.
See you, buddy. Tom Hart there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Let's hit a break here. We'll come back with Around Aggieland. Kay Naegeli's in the house, and maybe a little SEC tidbits as well. And then Billy Liucci at some point. Milliken Reserve Time, farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and they have a mission to build a healthy community around nature. They're committed to treading lightly on the land. Milliken Reserve is creating a sanctuary for family, for nature, and for community. You like to hang out with your kids, your wife? Go to Milliken Reserve. Doesn't cost anything, right? To go walking there, hiking, biking, you name it. They got it all. Canoeing, kayaking. It's just such a great place to go and enjoy your time with your family. And they got white-tailed deer. They got songbirds. They got rabbits. They got turtles. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means that generation after generation come home to that pristine countryside place. Wonderful place to connect with families and with each other. Great neighborhoods, the creek, the hollow, the meadows, all there. Check out millikenreserve.com for more information. That website again, millikenreserve.com. Welcome back in TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for our favorite segment called Around Aggieland, and that is presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock-solid banking website, normandystatebank.com. Time for Kay Naegeli.
Good morning, David. How are you?
What's up?
Good Monday so far?
It's been all right. It's been a Monday.
It's classic Monday.
Just, had a little workout in this morning.
Okay, how was
little
that? I saw your little
BVMMA.
Instagram story. I liked it.
I went to BVMMA, so saw my people there, and we're...
How long have you been doing that?
Since July, the 7th.
So are you good now, or no?
No.
How long does it take to get good at something like that?
It depends what we're talking about. Good. My striking is much better than it was 6 months ago.
Okay.
My jiu-jitsu is certainly better, but there's always a guy that knows more than you that can kick your butt that looks like they shouldn't be able to.
I feel like the people that would be in that gym do that for a long period of time.
There's a lot, but there's some newbies. I highly recommend it. I'm gonna probably during the break have my kids go, my boys go.
Mm-hmm.
I want to teach my girls how to kill.
Yeah, I want self-defense. I want to take a class like that because you never know.
I taught both of my daughters how to do a triangle.
Smart.
Which is using basically your knee around their neck.
Hey.
And
Scary world
it's not
out
that
there.
hard to use, and they both know how to do it now.
Scary world out there.
Don't mess with
Gotta be prepared.
What's going on in Around Aggieland?
Yeah, let's get to it. So over the weekend, Mike Elko nabbed 2 transfers out of the portal in Youngstown State linebacker Alex Howard and then Louisiana Tech wide receiver Cyrus Allen. Howard has 1 year of eligibility. Yes, he is a linebacker. Tallied 142 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks at Youngstown State. So getting some production out of him. And then Allen, the wide receiver from La Tech, has 2 years of eligibility, 68 receptions for 1,200, nearly 1,300 yards, and then 8 touchdowns, so also getting some production. Over the weekend, men's basketball did unfortunately lose, although Wade Taylor was playing out of his mind, had 34 points and a couple threes that were just unbelievable to watch, honestly. They did erase a 21-point deficit in the second half, but they could not close out the victory as they dropped the game to number 4 Houston at the Halal Guys Showcase. 2 more non-conference games remain, both at Reed Arena, with the next one this Friday against Houston Christian at 7 p.m. If you happen to be in College Station, make sure to show out and pack Reed. Only 2 more non-conferences left, and I'm sure those SEC games are going to start getting pretty packed. So
pretty packed.
And then as well, more action at Reed Arena. Women's basketball, it looks to extend their win streak to 8. They did have a week off, but they will continue their December stretch. They will play Mississippi Valley State tonight, Luke's favorite team, apparently. Again, like I said, tonight, that is at 7 p.m. So if you're in town looking for something to do, make sure to head to Reed Arena.
Thank you very much, Kay.
Of course.
Appreciate you. Let's do this. Let's hit a break. I don't know if Billy will be here right at 9:35, but I know that Luke has got some around the SEC notes for us. We'll get into that. Billy will be here soon. We'll chit-chat with Billy about the portal, about signing day. Hello. How far away are we?
We're 2 days out.
2 days out from signing day.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right. So we'll have that, and, of course, we'll get to your calls, your text messages, and whatnot. Right now, though, we're talking about career opportunities at the Association of Former Students. Many of you, I know, want to move back to Aggieland, but you need a job, J-O-B. So why don't you reach out to the Association of Former Students, see what they have on their website. Maybe one of their openings fits your needs out there. They're looking to hire professionals to join their team. They've got openings in communications, fundraising, former student programs, campus programs, and much, much more. They are the nation's premier alumni association and the oldest organization supporting A&M in support of that Aggie network. They play a part in every Aggie story from Howdy to here out there. Don't miss opportunities to help out the association with Howdy Socials and Aggie Rain Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies the Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie network. If you're interested in joining the team or sharing with someone that would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/associationjobs and apply and get more information on each position. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for Coffee Talk. I didn't do it earlier, so we're going to do it now. Brought to you by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of morning by going to TexAgsCoffee.com. I'm actually just finished my TexAgs Coffee, moving over to the tea team for no caffeine. I'm sure many of you are riveted by this information. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. That's where we find Luke Evangelist. Luke, what's going on in your world, buddy?
So I've got another follow-up. I know we showed that viral photo, funny photo from the Texas 6A state championships, but I've got an update from 2A. Texas A&M commit Terry Bussey also kind of had his viral moment this weekend. He set 2 records in the 2A state championship game as he led the Timpson Tigers to their first state championship in school history after the previous 3 years they lost in the semifinals all 3 years. So he's finally able to break through, and that was because in the first half, he had a 93-yard rushing touchdown, which is now the longest rushing touchdown in 2A state championship history.
Wow.
And he had a 97-yard passing touchdown, which is now the longest passing touchdown in 2A state championship history. He broke both of those records in the first half on his way to 466 total yards and 6 total touchdowns.
Mr. Bussey, please stay with A&M. Please. Thank you.
Yep, and speaking of players who are not sticking with their former teams, we're going to go to a transfer portal update around the SEC. So the media makes a lot of comments about a mass exodus about A&M. However, Georgia currently leads the way with 17 players in the transfer portal, including 3 5-stars and 9 former 4-stars out of high school. Arkansas quarterback KJ Jefferson officially entered the transfer portal on Saturday, and his former teammate Rocket Sanders committed to South Carolina also recently. I think that kind of went under the radar. Not a lot of people are talking about that.
Do you think KJ ends up at South Carolina?
I would hope not.
I would hope not too.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
And teaming up with Rocket Sanders would be lethal. They were pretty good at Arkansas. I know the record didn't show it, but they were always tough to game plan for. And then former Mississippi State wide receiver Xavion Thomas committed to LSU over the weekend. He was a freshman All-American in 2022. And then former Vanderbilt quarterback Walter Taylor, former Vanderbilt wide receiver Will Shepard, and former LSU defensive end Quincy Wiggins all committed to Colorado over the weekend. So Deion seems to be doing work in the transfer portal once again. Fresno State tight end Trey Watson entered the transfer portal, a former teammate of Jalen Henderson. And if you follow him on Twitter, you would have seen that over the weekend, Jalen Henderson tweeted the eyeball emojis at him, maybe insinuating a possible return in College Station. I know a lot of players on the current roster are doing work in the transfer portal, like on Twitter, trying to recruit teammates. Like Will Lee has been a really big player trying to recruit players to A&M. And then a couple more updates. We have former South Carolina wide receiver Juice Wells transferring to Ole Miss. That is the last thing we will say about Ole Miss. And then former Kansas defensive lineman Gage Keys committed to Auburn. So that's a bit of an update on what's going on around the SEC in the transfer portal.
Man, this portal thing, isn't it interesting? We love it when it helps and hate it when it hurts. And, you know, if you believe what people are saying about Walter leaning towards the Ole Miss way, we'll ask Billy what the latest is on that. But it's just they're going to keep fighting for him. It'd be great for him to stay. It'd be awesome. But at the end of the day, man, I'm going to sound like an old man. I just want people who want to play here. Like, if for instance, my career, I have never taken, well, I don't want to say never. For most of my jobs in my life, salary was not part of the conversation. I expect a certain salary range because of my level of experience. I want to go where I'm going to be happy, where I'm going to be, I'm going to go somewhere that I can grow. I'm around friends that I want to be. Now, we can't always be in that situation, but when you're a coveted 5-star, that should be part of it. You're going to be compensated wherever you go, right? Like, so where do you want to be? Where do you see a path to win? Where do you see all that? And to me, that is part of the conversation. And hopefully these guys have people in their ears. Are you on the phone?
No.
Do you need help? Billy Liucci in studio here with 2 coffees and a phone call.
FaceTiming someone.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not on the phone. That was just, I couldn't carry the coffee. I couldn't put it down. I was on the phone, and then I got off the phone, and then I couldn't hang up the phone.
How are you, buddy?
Here we are. Did you say how am I?
Yeah.
I'm good. How are you, Dave?
How was your weekend?
What is this?
Some shirts. I forget which ones those are.
Weekend was fine. Went and watched Aggie hoops at Toyota Center. That was fun. I mean, right up until it wasn't fun. It was fun.
Then wasn't.
It wasn't, but it was still a hell of a basketball game.
Yeah,
that's what I really wanted to see. I guess we start. That was kind of all I did. I did that in a Christmas party last night. Shout out Juan Blanco, John White. But it was a good little weekend. Always love going down to Houston, eating some good food. Had a meal with a couple great Aggies. Came back, so low key but good weekend. And yeah, you know, I'm ready for this basketball team to look like we thought it was going to look. And by that, I don't mean that they lost a last-second game to number 4 U of H, but I mean it just feels unfortunate so far.
Yeah.
In basketball, you don't expect to be without players, and Buzz isn't going to come on here and talk about that, so I will. It's just like, man, you lose a game like that, and you go, what if you had Boots? You know? You look at their non-conference resume, and it's solid right now. And you go, what if you had, you know, Marble and Boots, who you really haven't had for weeks now. So it's like basketball is not the sport you expect that type of attrition. It happens every once in a while, but I would love to see Radford back as soon as he's physically able, obviously.
They don't play again until the 30th, I believe. So they got So that helps.
And what's left in the non-conference? Is there just one game left or two?
I believe it's 2 left in the non-conference. So does he even need to play in those?
Yeah, I mean, depending on how he feels, right? And then with Marble, that's...
Sorry, the 22nd and the 30th. There you go.
So, yeah, Marble's like the great unknown. So, but these guys are playing their butts off. You know, some of these comebacks we've seen them have in the losses, in the victory over Iowa State. What Wade did on Saturday was pretty legendary, especially if they would have been able to cap that thing off and win. But you just see how much a difference not having those couple guys makes. And you know, they've been functioning without Marble all year, so it's right now more about not having Boots. But you look at Wade, 6 threes. 34 points. I mean, just how many of those? I haven't even looked, David. I've been so busy. How many of those came in the second half? What did Wade have in the first half? 6, 8?
Yeah.
I mean, he went insane in the second half. It was a great atmosphere, great basketball team and program there. And, you know, that Sampson's built at U of H. We talked about that coming
26 in the second half.
Yeah, so, 8. I guess I was right.
Yep.
Yeah. But, no, I mean, I'm ready for SEC play to start. Did you see some of the numbers on their non-conference resume? Like where they are in the net, compared
16,
to last year.
80-something last year, yep.
I mean, this feels like I haven't listened to somebody that nerds out on this stuff more than me. I don't start to nerd out on it until about, mid-February, yeah. But somebody that's already doing that, I would think, and look, the bar is set higher, but they went 15-3 in the league last year, which was remarkable, and they were 7 seed. With this non-conference resume, even with this loss on Saturday, I'm sitting here wondering, you know, at 12-6, they're probably I think at 12-6 they're a higher seed than they were last year. I mean, they might be like a 5 seed at 12-6 in the league, whereas at 15-3 and going to the conference tournament final, they were a 7 seed. This is where you're seeing like these teams in the league that every year we go, wait, how are they ahead of A&M? How is Arkansas seeded three lines ahead of A&M? Because we beat them 2 out of 3, and we went further in the tournament. We finished higher in the conference. This is how. And even when you lose games like this, it's just playing them. Now, I don't think you get any credit for losing close. Losing close, what it does is show you what their potential could be if they could get it all together in terms of personnel.
They're not going to play a better team than Houston the rest of the way, right? I don't think they will.
No.
And a defense that, look, Wade had struggled for a big stretch. What he did against a team that came out to stop him, They rewrote the offensive script, and so that is just a reminder. This is who this guy can be more than he's been this year. Yeah. Nobody's expecting 34 a game, but
you see him though. He's done it more than a couple times, but 2 of them have come against U of H and FAU. So, and Memphis got they got a nice win this weekend. They just have to fight through this, get Boots healthy, and get him back. You know, who knows what the outcome will be with Marble. You know, when Buzz said the word university, I just about cringe. And that's their own pace, their own timing, right, wrong, indifferent, whatever the subject is. I've seen it all too often. That's something that needs to be fixed around here in the worst way, and it's not just a pro athlete thing. That's just fix the system, get it right when it comes to all things that need to be adjudicated or handled or whatever, but get it done in a more timely manner with actual professionals handling the situations.
Well, here's the thing that we know, Billy, and this is what I started off the whole show today with. Look, I'm not happy about the situation, right? I don't believe in these moral victories. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But we do know this because we've seen it year after year. This team rises as the year goes on.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good right now.
Yeah.
So if they're pretty good right now with a couple unfortunate losses, where are they going to be come March? And that's where I'm putting my energy is like, look, it's not ideal, but I still think they can be close to that team that we thought they could be as the year plays out. And the SEC right now doesn't look as daunting as it has in the past.
No, and it's not ideal, but there's nothing. Here's what the thing is. If they'd have won that game, what does that do for their whole resume? Mm-hmm. Holy cow. That's that win that just carries you a damn seed line all year, or it gets you off the bubble. And when you're compared to other bubble teams, there's no other bubble team that has a win like that. That's how close they were to getting that and having that in their pocket for whatever they need it for later on in the year. So it's frustrating from that standpoint that you're that close to getting a win of that magnitude, but they don't have a negative thing on their resume, right?
Right.
There's not one single negative.
You're like, oh, how did they lose to this
team?
You
lost essentially a road game to a team that was in the Final Four 2 years ago that's in the top 5. You lost a neutral site to a team that was in the Final Four last year. You lost on the road to an ACC power in Virginia. And you lost to Memphis, who's rising, and who should be one of the top teams in their league, and typically is going to make the tournament every year. Those are the my thing is, I wish we could have seen them win one or two of those. And look, they could have won the one on Saturday. That was the one you go, man, you could have got that. They didn't have Radford. They didn't have Marble for any of them. That's not the team this year, unfortunately, as of yet. But they didn't have Radford for, Virginia and U of H? So 2 of the, am I right? FAU he played, right? Or am I wrong? Yeah. They didn't have Radford for 2 of those 4 games. And you wonder, had they had him, what that could have meant. And they really didn't have him for Memphis because he basically took him like a half to even get going. And then when he did, he actually made a little bit of a difference. But it was just tread water, hang in there, and have at least one of those 2 guys back for conference play and see where you can go. It's a good basketball team. They're a good basketball team. They will fight your ass. And like you said, Buzz's teams always get better as the season goes on. So we'll see. I mean, I think there's still there's a lot out there in front of them is what we're saying.
And that's not a hope, Billy. This is just what they've done. That's their track record is to go up. And there's no Wofford on their schedule this year. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back.
What does that even mean?
I'm just saying there's no, like...
You mean they're not going to lose a game like that?
Well, no, they haven't. Like,
there's no Wofford on their resume.
Right, sorry, yeah. Like, they...
I was going to say, I see a couple. They play a tough conference, but there's a couple.
No, but there's no Wofford loss on their resume. They've lost to some pretty darn
sure,
good teams.
for sure.
Now we need to start winning those games.
Yep.
Let's hit a break. Heritage Films time. That's Chance McClain's company. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. They make documentary films about families, and that's at the end of the day. This is the holiday season. You should be doing that together. Imagine Christmas Eve before you maybe open up some early gifts with your family. You got your mom, your dad there, your grandpa, aunts, uncles, brothers, all at the house, right? And you guys are watching the story about your grandpa. That would be awesome. With him there and sharing that moment with your children, and they get to see it. And then a few years later, they got to watch it as they get older. Like, yeah, I remember that when we all got together. That's the beauty of what Chance does. He makes memories. Well, he captures your memories, and then he makes new memories by putting that together so you all can watch it as a family. You can do that with Heritage Films. They make the documentary films about family business, family ranch, family, just important people in your family. They also do the Year Flicks, which is a 20-minute video, Q&A benchmark video for the some younger kids in your family. So you got a freshman in college, tell their story in 20 minutes, find out what they're into right now. And then a year later, you do part 2. And then junior year, you do part 3, part 4. You got a 4-part series there when it comes to your kid's life there at Texas A&M. The website, yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Probably not enough time to answer this question, and I don't even know if Billy wants to get into it, but Kat Ag asked question because there's confusing and conflicting information out there. Does TAMU have an NIL issue? And I'm going to just, at least you've said just on Friday. We're still in the top 10 of NIL with schools, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it an issue. I would call it I mean, take it as a call to arms. If you're listening and you have $10 to give, $1,000 or $100,000 or $1 million, and some of you are listening, take it as a call to arms. I'm not sitting here BSing. If Ole Miss can go and get the players in the portal they're getting, and they can go get Walter Nolan away from A&M, which if I was a betting man today, I'd say I think will happen. It's not guaranteed, but obviously every bit of momentum is going that way.
Mm-hmm.
We know that, in my opinion, that's been all about one thing from the rip. And if they can essentially outbid you, Ole Miss, and they've gone all in on the portal, and I think that's been their strategy more so than recruiting. It's a very interesting strategy and philosophy, but clearly there's someone or a group or a handful of donors that have said, you know what, we're going to go all in and try to win a national championship. Problem for A&M is it's so much about timing, because those people at A&M did that. They did that just a couple of years ago in the form of $200 million in facilities.
Right.
And a handful of people did most of that. So I think what I'm saying is there's a whole next tier of folks, and everyone just step up as little or as much as you want, and let's see what the result is.
Right.
And I think that's that's where it's at. You see who Texas is going and getting in the portal, what they're doing in recruiting, and I know they've had an amazing year. Anytime you're in the playoff, unless you're TCU, you're going to benefit from that with a massive recruiting bump. But let's not pretend that Texas isn't winning right now because of the players they got as soon as NIL kicked in.
Yeah.
Again, Texas fans get really sensitive and really upset for no reason. That's legal. That's not an indictment. They did what you're supposed to do, and they took it to an extreme. That's what Ole Miss is doing in the portal. I believe, in 2023 and 4 and beyond, if you want to win, that's what you got to do. And you can't complain if you don't.
Thank you, Billy. We'll come back with Buzz next on TexAgs. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in this morning. Got Billy in studio. We're going to figure out some other stuff on the hour here as I start texting here in a moment. Billy, as we wait to see if we're going to get Buzz here in a minute or not, let's continue the dialogue when it comes to transfer portal and whatnot. Some of the good things that are happening there. Over the weekend, Cyrus Allen was the most recent one to say he's going to be coming to Texas A&M. Your thoughts on what he brings to the table? A position of need. We needed some more guys in there, and Cyrus Allen certainly has got some big play potential there.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking. There was news, Jake Johnson to North Carolina. Not a surprise. You got Saturday Down South calling Kiffin the Portal King. So it blows my mind how people thought A&M, oh, damn them for spending a made-up amount of money. But the guy that was doing the most complaining gets to be celebrated. You and I would be the Portal King if we the one thing I will give them credit for in Oxford is I think they decided for our deal here, portal more important than recruiting out of high school. We can do better in that space than we can high school recruiting. And I think there's something to that. We can have better evaluations. We can have better evaluations through the portal that way. And I think a lot of coaches are going to feel that way. And I'm not sure Elko won't either. I think they'll kind of feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, a couple of names from this weekend. We have Cyrus Allen and Alex Howard. You want to take these in parts? Just the wide receiver Cyrus Allen, as I mentioned earlier, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns in a position of need.
Position of need for sure. And being what he did at La Tech last year, that's over his career. Last year, I believe it was just a little under 800 yards. Look, you watch him, he's a playmaker. He makes plays. We said the same thing a year ago at this time about Trey Harris. And I don't know if you guys have blocked it out of your memory or not, but Trey Harris went and scalded a depleted A&M secondary, but scalded them for 200 yards. And it wasn't just because they were depleted. He made some of the more ridiculous catches you'll see. He was a difference maker in the SEC for Ole Miss this year. You hope A&M has similar success with Cyrus. They needed him. They need receivers. They need depth. The portal is not closed either direction. You're losing Anais Smith. They needed Cyrus Allen. There was much to be made about, I believe they lost Colin Lacey to, where did he go? He went to, I get confused with the Louisville, Kentucky. He went to Louisville. The other guy, the guy from North Texas, went to Kentucky. But people were hand-wringing over that. This guy looks every bit as good.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Cyrus Allen, I think that's a big pickup for A&M. I don't think they're probably not done. They're not done at receiver either in the portal or via the high school ranks. Depending on what happens at the position, I could see them going and maybe grabbing another receiver in the portal. I personally think they should, regardless, if they can.
What about Alex Howard, the Youngstown State linebacker?
I love his production. And, it's tough to, unless you're a talent scout, a linebacker scout, he looks like he can run and is active on tape. But I'm just looking at the production there, and I'm looking at the career numbers are always a little bit hard to parse through, but I look at how he did last season, and he looked like the best player on that Youngstown State defense. And I think, look, that's a desperate position of need. I think they need another one. I think they need one more in the portal. You've got, obviously, you feel amazing about Torian York coming back for a second year, but you need more. And I think they don't have anything else proven at that position. You have a veteran in Martrell Harris, but there's nothing else proven at that position. I don't even think there's enough in the way of numbers. I think you'd need a second one. If you're going to get two, I think this is a great start.
I wasn't surprised, but I don't think we spoke when Jordan Gilbert decided to go to LSU. I would have liked for him to stick around, but whatever. Like they got to go get guys there too.
I mean, I'm not I'm not going to say anything about the tackle against Miami. But I hope there's more of that to come at LSU. I don't like LSU. I don't like the way they attempt to tamper with the A&M roster. I don't like a lot of things about LSU other than my friends that are LSU fans, graduates, former player. But I don't like Brian Kelly. I don't like the way they operate. So if you go to LSU, I don't like you. Sometimes we can't say that. I'll say whatever the hell I want. I don't. You go there, that's a line I cut off. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
I like A&M's situation at safety with Bryce Anderson, with Jacoby Matthews, with Jared Kerr. I think he's an underrated player. People don't talk about enough. I think with the way Mike Elko used his safeties here, I think they're going to have a nice Dalton Brooks. I didn't mention that. I think people don't know much about yet. He's going to be a player. I think keeping those guys was important. And they would have kept Jordan Gilbert, too. Don't get me wrong. He can play. They want to keep him. They didn't just kind of let him go, but that wasn't a back-breaking portal guy at all. LSU needs the help in the secondary because they took the other one from A&M that didn't pan out. Jordan's a good kid, and he's a good worker. He's a good guy to have in your program. So that'll actually upgrade him. I'm surprised. I'm a little surprised that they took him based on. I just don't know how many plays were made here, but I also don't think he had too much playing time opportunities.
Hey, we'll go to the hotline right now, to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That's where we find Buzz Williams here on this Monday morning. Buzz, good morning. How are you, sir? Hello.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, there he is. Hey,
What's
Buzz.
up?
Good morning, buddy.
I apologize for being a minute late. I was on the floor with our guys, and I was trying to get away, but I was also trying to finish my point.
No, hey,
with the team, so I apologize.
I'm gonna do what you would not do if I was late, and that is give some grace here because one of us is trying to win basketball games that will benefit all of us.
I've only been late one time to TexAgs in the 4.5 years I've been here, which is right now. So this is day 1,720. So I've been late once. I apologize. It was the first thing I said after I said good morning. So I apologize again.
Well, you would think that I've only been late once, but the reality is a lot of times if Nuño asks you 2 questions in a row, that usually you can't see it, but it means I'm probably walking in. So I'll give you I'll confess it's been more than one. Buzz,
Yes, sir.
we went to Houston. I went down there. I wouldn't have missed that one. I was looking forward to that, and it lived up to it. Obviously, the wrong side of it there at the finish, but what an environment for I've been to a bunch of those, non-conference quote unquote classics, and a lot of them don't feel like classics at all or showcases.
Right. Yeah.
This felt like this had NCAA post season vibes to me.
Yeah, I thought the environment was through the roof. We are grateful for those that were in attendance. Obviously, the venue is as good as there is in the country, but I thought the ambiance and the environment, whether it's the combination of Texas LSU, I don't know. We weren't allowed to be in the gym when they played, but man, I thought for the Aggies and the Cougars, I thought it was a Sweet 16, Elite 8 type environment and type of game. The players, the level of talent, the physicality. For it to be the second week in December, I thought there were a lot of things that felt like the second or third week in March.
Buzz, you guys are down 21 in that game, and then the run happens. What kind of conversations are happening during mid-game to get your team back and watch Wade just go off the way he did?
Yeah, I said this in post game. I don't want to take any credit at all. So yes, I was saying a lot of things. I wasn't necessarily saying anything that I have not said before. I think some of this has to do with what we've been through in the first 6 weeks of the season. You know, it's we've played more quad one games than any team in the country other than Purdue. We've won as many quad one games as anybody in our league. I think some of this is we've had reps of this level of game, this type of talent, this sort of environment. We were down 21 with minutes against Iowa State. I know that in that particular game, we were playing without Henry and playing without Boots. So there was some justification for how poorly we played the first 18 minutes. I think on Saturday, I think we were down 21 with 15 and a half to play. I know that we fouled at the very end to give them 2 more points to make it 71. But from 15:39 up until the time that we had to foul to try to get the ball back, we outscored them 19 points. And so, like I just told our team, let's talk about the first 25 minutes before we talk about the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And let's figure out what is there to learn from the first 25 minutes. What did we do offensively? What did we do defensively? What did we do on the glass? Who was playing? Who was actually on the court? And then let's do the same thing for the last 15 minutes. And just in truth, what I just mentioned to them as we started a couple of hours ago is I'm not ready to talk to you about Houston because that's what they were expecting. Following a day off, we have early bird. We've talked about that before. So that's what they thought. They thought we were going to close down Houston. And I just said, hey, guys, I don't have peace yet about what I want to say because there's so many good things I could talk about. But there's a lot of other things that were not good that I need to talk about. And I think that there are, if you think about our quad one losses, we lost to Houston by 4, and we moved up 7 spots in the net. They moved up to number 1. Last weekend, we lost to Memphis by 6, and we were bad. They're not a quad one today, but they'll be a quad one a month from today. We lost to Florida Atlantic. I think they're 10th or 11th. We lost to them by 7. We lost at Virginia by 12, and they're a quad one. We can talk about the wins. We won at SMU. That's a quad one. We beat Ohio State at Ohio State. That's a quad one. And we beat Iowa State. That's a quad one. I want to study all of those games, including Houston, before I talk to our team about Houston, because we need to utilize the next 12 to 15 days on that conversation relative to what do we need to run more offensively, what do we need to do better defensively, and who gives us our best chance in a fight such as what Houston was. And is there anything to learn from those other 6 games besides University of Houston that correlates? And obviously that's going to take a lot of hours to do, but that's what I think is the next right step for us to do as we prepare, as we make our final preparations for league play beginning.
Buzz, I wanted to ask you about absences and injuries and things like that, not the specifics, but I don't want it to come off. You're not going to sit there and make excuses. So I just want to ask you this: like, you've coached for a long time as a head coach now. I mean, it's crazy that I knew you before you had been. That's wild to me because I feel like you've been doing this.
Yeah, that's why I trust you. I know that sounds silly, but that's probably a conversation for a different day. Like I don't know Olin, but like when I see Olin, I'm like, okay, well he's with Liucci, so I knew Liucci before anybody even knew who I was, and maybe that shouldn't matter, but because I'm from Ben Austin, that matters.
Yeah, and look, it's right back at you. You know that. And I just as a side funny part is my roommate at the time, way back in the day, thought he got done playing basketball and was GA, and basically was Buzz's GA. And so he would come home and tell me how much you were working him, and he couldn't figure out the little light. I'm like, even at that young age, I'm like, Brookhart, he's teaching you life lessons here. You need to. He's testing you with this and that all the way back then. So so I know you're not going to sit there and make. I'm just curious, like in your years as a head coach, do you have, because it's one thing for the players to have experience. So now they've played in a game like the U of H game. They've played the up and down 90-something to 80-something against FAU. They've had the big comeback against Iowa State. They had to come back. They learned through experience. You as a head coach, have you been through a season with this amount of inconsistency in terms of who's available to you from before the season through here and at this early stage in the year? Can you remember at any of your stops navigating something like this?
No, sir.
Yeah.
And I don't say that for justification for losing. I understand how I am judged, and I also understand how our team is judged. And I said this to the team when I started this morning. Our staff is kind of broke up into, the easiest way to explain it is similar to how football does it. Hey, this guy's offense, that guy's defense.
Yeah.
He's assistant offense. This guy's special teams. This guy does personnel. So there's a lot of different text threads on my phone. And so Saturday on the way home, Saturday night once I got home, yesterday before church, yesterday after church, yesterday during my walk, last night as I'm preparing for this morning, I'm sending manuscripts of text to each of those groupings saying, I want to know this. Can you look this up relative to these games? Can you explain this after a made shot versus Houston? What was our PPP? After a miss? All of these different thoughts. And so I was telling our kids that this morning, hey, guys, when I ask for the specifics of these numbers on all the stuff I talked to you guys about versus Iowa State, when I text these guys, what's the first thing they're going to say? And Henry says, well, me and Boots didn't play. And I go, yes, sir. So should the data count? Should it count?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at Henry, and he's like, I don't know. And I go, okay, well, look at the board. And I just explained to you guys quad ones, quad twos. Look at the schedule we played. We're number 16 in the net. This is what we've done. I go, should it count? He goes, yes, sir, because it's on the board. I go, yeah, that's my point. Nobody on NCAA.org/net rankings is saying, hey, here's a caveat. Boots didn't play, Henry didn't play.
Yep.
And so then I say to the team, hey, guys, I'm asking all of these questions, and the reason I can't talk to you today about Houston is I want to study all of this stuff, and you guys know I'm never going to say anything to you until in my heart I'm convicted by it. I'm not convicted yet because I got stuff to study it. But when I'm asking questions about Houston, what's the first thing they're going to say? Well, Boots says, well, Coach, I didn't play. And I go, hey, you know what? You may end up being one of the best players / people I've ever coached. And everybody in the organization knows that, even though the public doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody in our group knows, like, the depth of love that I have for you, the depth of love Corey has for you. Like, you have known my children since they were babies. I said, but that ain't on that board.
Yeah.
So is the data I'm going to give you specific to he didn't play, and the response that 4 has to have, what it changes for us on the glass, what it changes that we run offensively, what about this, and what about, and it just, you can just spiral out of control on all the scenarios. What I would say to you as a coach is, at Media Day at A&M, I had been praying about it. I had been reading a lot of different things. I had talked to several smart people outside of Texas A&M, and I made the decision that I was not going to talk about the health of our players.
Yeah.
And before I ever said that at Media Day, I told our team the reason why. And I said, so guys, here's what's going to happen. The local media, they halfway like me. So they're going to try to abide by it. The other people that will interview you or DM you or text you or ask you to do a podcast, whoever those people are, the way they're going to handle the health of our team is they already know I'm not going to say it, so they're going to go to you guys in hopes that you guys are immature kids and you say it. So I'm explaining to you why I'm doing it. And as I explained it, they go, because I never thought of that. And I go, yes. So it's not for the public to know. This is why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it to be a jerk. That's why I'm going to say it at Media Day before we've ever played a game or lost a game or won a game. I'm not going to use it. This is why we won. This is why we lost. No, all of that is non-emotional. That's why I'm doing it. I've reminded them in different ways with different teams where that's come into play. And so I think as a program, we've adjusted to all of this the best we can. It's like last year. We're 6-5 after 11 games, and we're 120th in the net. Now, that's a bad 6-5.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're a hard 7-4, and we're 16th in the net.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Some of what we're talking about is the caliber of competition and what comes with playing that schedule. That's part of it. But personally, not even as a coach, personally, you dream of having an opportunity to professionally be able to be on this stage. You realize the blessing that comes with it, but you also understand that there's a lot that you, in the dream, weren't thinking through. But personally, those players have had those same level of dreams. And so when we can't be at our best, it is part of it. We're not justifying losing because it's part of it. But like personally, just as a human, you're like, hey, I want them to be at their best, and I want us to be at our best, and now let's see what it is. But when you have to do it without one of your warriors, you're like, man, we're down 21. What in the hell were we doing? And then we're shooting free throws to tie it, and you're like, whew, this is off the chart. And then you get on the bus home, and you're like, you think it'd have been any different if Boots played?
Yeah.
Like, that's what Coach Hanson's talking to me about in the parking garage. Buzz, you know I think the world of you. And we started talking, and he mentions it. And I'm like, but Coach, that's part of it. But there is personally, not professionally, it's just part of it. But personally, you're like, yeah, I'd just kind of like to know if it was best on best, what would it be? But that wasn't the case. And so you got to figure out how to win when you're not at your best. And that's part of athletics too.
Buzz,
that's a great answer, by the way. That's a great answer, and I think, we don't know any of this, but I think as that's what the beauty of college basketball and I think college baseball are. There's such long seasons that I think we'll get to answer that question eventually. I do think that. So, and I look forward to it.
Like Rock says something to me all the time. Like I was getting dressed after media, and he goes, "Coach, you all right?" And I go, "I can't articulate the exhaustion that I feel."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "You're too tired to say it."
Yeah.
And I go, "Yeah, I can't explain it. It's December the 16th. I can't explain it." He goes, "But Coach, here's the good thing.
Yeah.
We have to be at our best March the 16th. Don't forget." And I go, "Rock, that's like 19 years from now, but thanks for telling me." Because that is a good response to my emotional bankruptcy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Coach, I understand you're so tired you can't explain it, but remember, in 3 months we got to be our best. All right, good talk, man. Thank you. I got it. That's a little juice for me. I appreciate that.
Well said, Buzz. Thank you so much. Happy holidays. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
I apologize for being 1 minute late. I'll try not to.
You made up for it. You made up for it.
Thanks for being nice to me, Liucci. Have a good day.
All right, Buzz. See you.
Thank you. Buzz Williams there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. All right, we'll head a break. We'll come back. Got a lot of stuff to still get into here.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And if you knew Rock, that's funny. But it's so true. It is, like we said, it's get Boots back, get him healthy, and I think they'll have plenty of chances to be that team.
Be best on best in the SEC.
And you're better. Look, I wanted to win that game. You had Cougar fans there. You had Longhorn fans. You had LSU fans. You had, the guys playing their hearts out against a real team, real coach, real program.
Yep.
And you came up literally second short, one possession short. But when you do get healthy and get right, I think this basketball team will be a hell of a lot better because of Saturday. And
absolutely,
like we talked about, their net ranking got a hell of a lot better because of Saturday. That's the beauty of college basketball and baseball that makes it so much easier and less strenuous, not for Buzz or those players, but for us and for fans. It's like it's not the end of the world, and there is some positive to be gained in a basketball game like that one, win or lose. Obviously, a lot more positive to be gained if you could finish that thing off.
Somebody earlier, when I made the comment of this will be the best team you take on, I think it was on the YouTube page, they said, well, Ole Miss or Kentucky might be better than Houston. Well, good. They'll give A&M a couple more opportunities to move it up.
Ole Miss, what, are they still undefeated? I don't think they're better than U of H. I think that's a real team, real program. I think Ole Miss is right now. I know they beat Memphis, but I think they're still as much a product of who they're playing versus. But their Beard, hey, you can get it done day one in this sport. In this sport, and hey, keep that Ole Miss theme going today, huh? Lane Kiffin and Chris Beard running the show.
What is this? All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with some more. Right now, we're talking Costa Vida Baja-inspired Mexican restaurant. It is the ultimate fresh Mex. Billy's got his, is it a burrito? No, it's not a burrito. What is it you have again there? The Luch.
It's a burrito.
It is a burrito. It's a big burrito.
Handheld burrito, I believe it's called.
Handheld burrito. So you got the Luch.
As opposed to you holding it
with a fork?
In a forklift or holding it with a football.
Are you the kind of guy that uses a fork and cuts the burrito?
You almost made me cuss.
Good.
Hell no.
Good. Just making sure. I'm team hold with my hand. Anyway, they got sweet pork quesadillas there. They got the raspberry chipotle chicken salad, the shrimp taco mango salsa, the chips and queso, and of course the luch, as he's been talking about. Go check it out. They're opening for dine-in, drive-through, curbside takeaway, delivery with DoorDash. They got great catering as well. So graduation parties, family parties, whatever it may be, let Costa Vida be a part of that. They are such a good place to go to there in South College Station. Aggie owned and operated. appreciated. Say hi to Holly when you go out there. 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station. It's Costa Vida. All right, TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. One of the beauties of talking to Coach Buzz is you never know where the conversation is going to go. He was very, very transparent there. I appreciate the conversation. One of the things, where was it? I'm trying to find it. It was on the TexAgs chat talking about the College Football Playoff Committee certainly does think about when players are out for injury. So maybe, just saying, maybe when A&M is back to being healthy completely, we can have that conversation as well. Look, if they are indeed the team we think they can be, and this non-conference, I did expect at least one more win against one of those top teams. But if they can, and again the word "if" is there, if they can get healthy, if they can have their guys there at the end of the season, they're going to be a better basketball team for it. All right, they're going to be better at the end of the year, playing their best ball. I forget if it was Billy or if it was Olin talking about get 12-6 in SEC play, get a 5 seed, and go take your shot there. But the bottom line is they've been playing without 2/5 of their starting lineup. It is But no one's going to feel sorry for them. So what they have to do is go get it. One thing I didn't get to with Buzz that I wanted to was, does he recruit players with a chip on their shoulder? Because if you listen to the post-game show with Henry Coleman, or post-game interviews with Henry Coleman, he mentioned that they got a lot of dudes on that team with a chip on their shoulder. And chips on their shoulder dudes play with a certain edge to them. We want it on football. We want it in basketball. And I was just curious if he does go after guys for that, because we know it takes a certain type of athlete to play for Buzz, certain type of guy, a mindset, a commitment to work that may be absent in other places. I'm just curious if he goes after guys like that, because I would want a bunch of dudes with a chip on their shoulder. You got to get the stars, and I think Wade Taylor has proven to be one of those stars, no doubt about that. So they get HCU on the 22nd. They get Prairie View to close out their non-conference schedule, and then it's SEC time. And they got to go to work, guys. They got to go to work, and I think they will. At the end of the day, if Wade Taylor is being defended by the University of Houston in the way he was, and was able to come up with the offensive output that he did after some of the struggles he had all year, yes, sir. Go ahead. Go do your thing. It's a sign of where this guy can take his game, get the complete guys around him, and forget about it. Let's do this. Let's get back on track. Billy had to take a phone call. Let's get back on the clock, because that was a long opening segment. We'll have 2 segments to go with Billy when we come back. But right now we're talking Brian Foley Law. Criminal defense and DWI lawyer, Brian Foley of Brian Foley Law. Good guy. I've talked to him a few times. He's been here. He's a TexAgs subscriber. He listens to the show all the time. He is a board-certified lawyer, and not many of those are around. 7% of this of that world in Texas are that qualified, and he's one of those. So if you've got a kid who makes a mistake when he goes away to college, if you make a mistake when you're out there, right? If you've got somebody, I don't know, let's go come up with a scenario. 20-year-old goes to Northgate, right? They bring a fake ID. They get arrested for it. Hello, it happens to some people I know. Charge you with a Class A misdemeanor in county court, which is a crime. They can stay on your record forever instead of a Class C ticket like speeding or failure. Well, you need somebody who understands the system inside and out, because he is a former chief prosecutor that knows that system, and he can take care of it. He knows all the ins and outs. When you need help, when we make a little mistake, when we make a big mistake, you need somebody who's got your best interest, who understands the way to get it done. Good people can have a bad day. The next day, start by calling criminal defense lawyer and DWI lawyer Brian Foley. Brian Foley Law. They cover Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and as well as Bryan, College Station. 936-596-0407. Again, that number, 936-596-0407. He answers, and he'll handle that with a personal touch. 936-596-0407, or go to brianfoleylaw.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, hour number 3. Got about 19 minutes left on the show. Billy's back with us. Billy, signing day is just coming up on Wednesday.
Yep.
How are we trending? Because I know we had some good visitors this past weekend. I feel like some of the Florida guys may be trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Overall,
I'll tell you what, out of those 3,
it's an Anthony Carey.
Carey's a good running back with a lot of offers, and it's a guy that A&M clearly needs. They need a running back signing this year, without question. You wonder how much consultation they've done with Trooper Taylor to see how he feels about Carey. At wide receiver, you look at this class. They absolutely need receivers in this class. At one point, you had Cam Coleman, Draylen Miller. The other 2 that have decommitted, I don't think A&M lost anything at all there, but you still need to sign quality players. I think that would add a quality player to that mix. Just ask University of Florida, who they're trying to hang on there. I think Solomon is an elite prospect as an edge rusher. I think the previous staff felt that way. This staff feels that way. Elite, like top end pass rusher, defensive end, edge prospect. You're like as good as you'll get. He should be high 4-star type of guy. He's that good. National top 100 type of guy. He's that good. I would love to see A&M sign him. I think if they can sign him and hang on to Dalen Evans and Don McKinley, that would be a whale of a defensive line group.
Is McKinley
a hell of a defensive line group?
McKinley's the one who's going to wait though to sign though,
it's
right?
going to be hard to do, but if they can do that, that's an A++, defensive line haul.
So potentially on Wednesday, 10 to 12 guys? Is that what
Yeah,
we're
it's going to be small. And again, I went back and looked. I think Jimbo's first December they signed like 8, and that's all he had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Jimbo wasn't having to worry about the portal and guys. You have players like Walter Nolan that require so much damn time and energy, and then you have players that require so much time and energy that just go to literally to the highest dollar amount, and it doesn't matter the school or the conference or the team. So you're dealing with that, but then you're dealing with guys that they'll sit there with an agreed upon deal for weeks and just kind of wait, and they have people running traps around the country to see what else is out there,
right,
while kind of sitting there on a sign, not a sign but agreed to deal that they haven't signed yet. So it's a massive problem, and it's not just for A&M, but when you're a new head coach, whether it's A&M or anywhere in 2023, and you're a new head coach, you're dealing with that, keeping your players, getting guys out of the portal, which is equally as important. And then you're also, by the way, dealing with recruiting. So when I say Jimbo signed 8 in December of 2017. It's a lot different in December of 23. And it's a hell of a lot harder. So, yeah, I think you'll see a really small signing day. It's more important what happens in February. But if you could get 1 or 2 right now that can really swing that pendulum, and you can keep certain guys on this roster to give you a lot of hope for next year, and get a couple more guys in the portal that matter, then this thing starts to swing pretty significantly.
Jermon McCoy, another guy that was in town this weekend, right?
And that's looking like probably, and again, I've learned to never say never, because you literally had a kid from Mississippi State that was at the airport in Houston come to College Station at LSU, quite literally hijacked and got him to their campus. Now, then he went to Ole Miss after that, from Oregon. So you never say never in this portal, because there are no rules. No one will abide by any rule, and I think A&M needs to do the same. It is cutthroat, dog eat dog, go get what you can get. And in the case of McCoy, I think it's A&M or Tennessee right now as we sit here today. like A&M's chances, but that would be a huge addition. You go him and Will Lee. Now you're starting to talk about what you need to do at the cornerback position. Now, I still think you shouldn't be done at that. That's where that needs at. So these are important. Every player becomes vitally important, but they're also vitally important to other schools in because there's 130 of them, and X number of 130 are desperate for cornerback help, immediate cornerback help. So it just keeps going up and up.
And then the other one, Garrett Miller, the tight end from Round Rock, could be solid in that group because I haven't watched him play much, but I did read he can catch, but he cannot absolutely block.
Yeah, and blocking tight end is significant for A&M right now. Obviously, I don't think they have that guy on campus. They don't right now. And Max Wright was capable in that regard as he got older and more accustomed to playing tight end, not defensive end. Fernando Garza, it was hoped would be that guy. He was not that guy. You don't have that on campus.
And then, so you already gave us an update on Walter, where you think that's trending. But Chase Basantis on Friday, you were still hopeful that.
Yeah, I think that's trending the right way for A&M.
Okay.
You can get guys back in from the portal. It has happened. It's happened elsewhere. I think that would be significant for a couple of reasons. Number one, because Chase has a chance to be a really good offensive lineman here. Now, I know he got baptized by fire this season. That was unfortunate. I wish that he wouldn't have, but he flashed enough where you're like, okay, you see the tools, we see the size, we see he would be a huge get back out of the portal because I think he's a several-year starter onto the NFL lineman at A&M or anywhere. And to get him back would be significant. I think just from a vibe standpoint, just kind of remind everyone that follows this that when guys go in the portal, don't totally go in the tank. You can get him back. I don't expect they'll get Fadil Diggs back. I see his younger brother just committed to Syracuse. That was the one I said from the jump, like if anyone was going to go with Elijah Robinson, it would be him. The key are the Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner. Those are the really key guys that A&M needs to get locked in. And if they do that.
And you feel good with those guys?
I do, but it's January 3rd, man.
Yeah.
It's a long way off.
Got a ways to go.
And even like, sign deals and agreements and everything, it doesn't guarantee anything in the day of the portal. That's where this thing is so stupid, so silly. But yeah, you keep them with Hicks and there's a couple other things potentially moving. Solomon, you get him in there with Malik Silla, and you start looking at it and go, okay, this could be Gabe Brownlow, Dindy, Albert Reed. You start going, okay, this could be a salty defensive line. We talked about the safety position. They've added a linebacker to go with Torian York. Maybe you add another linebacker, and you start to feel really good about this defense, especially with Mike Elko running that show on that side of the ball. And you start going, okay, this can play day one. That quarterback, number 15, can play day one. That offensive line, again, we'll go back to it. It's going to be the massive question mark next year. Can a new coach, a new voice, a new offensive system, a new coordinator, but the same players, can they make that massive leap? I think they can because the talent is there. It is 1,000% there.
As we hit a break, Noah Thomas, Texas Aggies United, just tweeted out, back for more. Good news there.
That was important. That was an important one. Noah could thrive in this offense. You watch Kansas State and Colin Klein, and they like throwing it deep. Noah Thomas likes to get behind secondaries and go up and make plays.
Short segment coming back. We'll finish it off here on TexAgs Radio. August.
You have a Yoda cup.
TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The Texans taking care of business against the Oilers or the Titans?
Oilers? Oh, yeah, the Oilers.
16-13 overtime?
I love that.
What a shot of disrespect to wear those uniforms when you visit.
Yeah, they got what was coming. I see Bronny tried to copy J.J. Watt and everybody else's tweet and tried to get he loves to try to get a little run. If you get some free likes, that guy is going to line up for it. It's like, back in the orphanage and like the books you read, they're lining up for porridge.
Yeah.
Give me some likes, please. Give me some likes. Could I please have some likes?
Can we
the Texans? The Texans. That was fun. That is absolute disrespect. It's actually disrespect is a mild term. It's a radio-friendly term for what you'd want to call it. So, yeah, for the Texans to go in there without C.J. Stroud and other guys as well, key players, obviously. Tank
8
Dell,
starters around, something like
to
that.
Go in there and beat that team.
Case Keenum, baby.
Is awesome. Don't ever question Case Keenum in anything. But, yeah, I'm prediction, Case Keenum will be a hell of a football coach one day.
100%. And those Cowboys, they are the
they're
most Jekyll and Hyde team.
Such an enigmatic team, man. You watch them one week and they look like they could win a Super Bowl. You watch them another week and you're like, thank God you're already in the playoffs, because with that performance yesterday, you wonder if they'd even make it. So that's a weird football team, Dallas. It really is. They did what to the Eagles last week, and they come back and do that in Buffalo. It wasn't like some random snow game either. They just look like a soft football team. And then you see them one week and they look, again, like I said, like a Super Bowl contender. So NFL's getting pretty interesting down the stretch here now. And the fact that the Texans are still in
the mix
playoff hunt is wild. It's just crazy to think of, but good for them. They're fun to watch finally.
Billy, thank you very much.
I did.
Don't mess with Sean Payton, apparently. He gave Russell Wilson the business.
All right. Payton's he's not one to be played with.
No,
You'll
he's
get
not.
Kenny Chesney on your ass if you don't watch it.
This is true. That's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on a Monday. We'll see you all mañana.